Well, coasters, it's Bruce here, and I'm outside Development West Coast. Now it's 2019, and this is the year when we work to change the things that we can change, but work with the things that we've got and make them better. Development West Coast, you know, bit of a checkered history. However, let's take a look at what they actually have done in Buller, Grey and Westland under the MDI fund. You'll be pleasantly surprised. And Development West Coast helped fund the West Turf Stadium. It's a brilliant facility, and it was funded out of MDI funding, Major Regional Initiative. The Greymouth Aquatic Centre was the largest project funded under the Grey MDI funding. So this was principally funded by Development West Coast. Fantastic facility, brilliantly put together, huge benefit to the community. The Westland Recreation Centre, principally funded by Development West Coast. Major community asset in Greymouth. So don't be confused by the Westland Recreation Centre name, it's actually in Greymouth, but a brilliant Development West Coast funded project. The Grey United Tennis Club, its major upgrade was principally funded by Development West Coast using MDI funding. It's major district initiative funding allocated to the Grey district. The courts look fantastic. The West Coast Theatre Trust, which manages the Regent Theatre complex, was principally funded by Development West Coast using MDI funds, Major District Initiative funds, allocated to the Grey District Council. It's a brilliant theatre, wonderful building, does a great job. The Cobden Sports Complex, down at the mouth of the river. The upgrade here was funded by Development West Coast. Once again via a Major District Initiative grant made available through the Grey District Council. We're in the Buller, and this is the NBS Theatre, funded by a Development West Coast MDI grant which was available to the Buller District Council. And they used their fund on two projects, this one and the Solid Energy Centre, which we'll pop around and have a look at. Fantastic, love it. Well folks, we're in Westport and we're at the Pulse Energy Recreation Centre, which used to be the Solid Energy Centre. Now funded by Development West Coast. Let's go and have a look. And so folks, we're inside the building. It's got the full swimming pool. So Pulse Energy Recreation Centre. Now it was funded by Development West Coast a number of years ago. Way ahead of its time, been brilliant. So there's another project that you really need to come and have a look at when you come home. Another Development West Coast MDI funding application that has been approved and will be constructed this year is the Indoor Equestrian Centre in Hokitika. be located at the racecourse in Hokitika. And a major move forward for equestrian on the coast. Another of the Development West Coast MDI funded projects is the Westland Boys Brigade at the racecourse at Hokitika. Building capable of taking 400 or 500 people. Quite amazing. And without the help of Development West Coast providing the seed capital, it would have been impossible to do. One of Westland's largest major district initiative funding from Development West Coast has been approved and is going into the construction of a fully covered in facility here at Westland High. Now, Development West Coast have funded 1.5 million of the $3 million cost. It would have been impossible without the funding. It'll be opened in 2019, this year. Very, very exciting. I can't wait. Another major district initiative fund application was successful with Development West Coast up at the Rusty Relics at Hokitika Airport, where the steam shed, the carpenter's shed, the livery, the boat shed all continue to expand. And the new funding will allow further buildings to be constructed along with an entranceway. Another project that couldn't have been funded without Development West Coast assistance. One of the major projects that occurred in Westland was the complete redevelopment of the I-site. It was funded by Development West Coast, once again, under its MDI scheme. So once again, a Development West Coast funded project. The development of the Westland District Library was funded principally by Development West Coast under its MDI program. That's Major District Initiative. The people of Westland are very proud of their library. It's very upmarket, very IT focused, and it's there principally because of Development West Coast. The Hokitika RSA had $400,000 contributed by an MDI grant from Development West Coast, which was part of Westland's MDI package that enabled the funds to be raised to build this brand new, fantastic RSA building. Could not have been done without the assistance of Development West Coast. The recently announced strengthening of the historic Carnegie building in Hokitika has been provided with $500,000 of MDI funding from Development West Coast from the Westland District pool. This has enabled further funds to be raised, which will see the rebuild of the strengthening to earthquake strength of the building. Could not have been done without DWC assistance. The historic Hokitika Region Theatre was strengthened using one of two Development West Coast MDI grants. A second grant enabled the technology in the building to be upgraded, and it's principally because of the MDI funding that this building is as magnificent as it is today. with the Ross Centennial Hall. All set up with Christmas lights this year. And the strengthening and upgrade with the kitchen was funded by Development West Coast with an MDI grant, which was part of the Western District Council's $6 million allotment. Now the reality is, the project wouldn't have occurred without that seed capital. And now in Harry, where they have a magnificent community hall, fundraised by the locals, but set off by a major grant from the MDI fund of Development West Coast. So there we go, folks. There's another project that happened because of the Development West Coast Major District Initiative funding. Now in Wataroa, and the Wataroa Hall is getting a major facelift. Now it's funded by Development West Coast MDI funding through the Western District Council. The community, of course, have used the funding granted as stake money so that they could leverage against it. Fantastic to see. Well, folks, we're in the small coastal settlement of Okarito. And this was the original Donovan's store. It's now used as a place where the community meets, and it was fully restored using Development West Coast MDI money allocated through the Western District Council. And we have a very small community here, and without this particular funding line, this would have been almost impossible. Well, folks, in Franz Joseph, looking at the community hall. Now the upgrade of the hall here was partially funded by a Development West Coast MDI grant available through the Western District Council. It's enabled a small community to do up its hall, and it's going pretty well. Another good one, I reckon. Well, folks, I never picked the best of days when I arrived here to have a look at this. This is the Fox Glacier Community Centre. $2.5 million worth of project funded by the community, but the big part came from Development West Coast via the MDI fund that it accessed through Western District Council. Now this is a community of 300 people. There is no way this could be here without the funding that became available. Well, folks, it was a bit of a surprise, wasn't it? What an outstanding success the Development West Coast MDI project has actually been. You know, there was $6 million granted to each district, and it was paid at the rate of $400,000 a year. It still is being paid. So it's $6 million, that's $18 million in total. And each of the districts, when they nominated an MDI project, had to ensure that the project itself used the money it got and leveraged other funds. So the actual end result has been multi-million-dollar gains. It's been fantastic. So I'm thinking it's a project that has been an outstanding success for Development West Coast and for the West Coast community. We'll catch you later.